This is the Off the Wall Hockey Show, which usually airs live on Friday nights. Unfortunately, during this past week's show, we ran into some technical difficulties after the first part. So Steele and I recorded the second part of the show this afternoon. I'm going to put them together and put a full show out on Sunday night, which you guys are watching now for episode 50. Now, to keep things consistent, we are using all the same stats and records for teams and players as they were on Friday. Even though some games have been played Friday and Saturday that would have changed these numbers, we're using them as they were on Friday. Hopefully you guys still enjoy episode 50, and we should be back to normal live Friday night for episode 51. Sorry about the difficulties, but here is episode 50. Hope you guys still enjoy it. Welcome, everybody, to the Off the Wall Hockey Show. It's a hockey show for hockey fans, part of the Steel Flyers All Sports Network, and this is a big one. It is episode 50, a big benchmark here. First show of 2022 as well. So we're starting off the new year with the 50th episode ever of the show, and hockey is back. We've got a lot to talk about as teams are back playing, a lot of action going on, and really, really excited to be back doing our usual show and talking some hockey. As always, Steele, my co-host, is here. Steele, welcome in. Thank you for being here, and ready for episode number 50?
Wow, man, I can't believe we're at 50. That is so awesome. That is so awesome. Man, congratulations, man. 50 episodes. Dude, this is so amazing. Thank you so very much for all that you do, especially here at Steel Flyers All Sports Network. Really appreciate that. This is great. I can't wait to talk about it. We had how was your New Year? How you been, man? How's your New Year?
Yeah, it was awesome, and it was a lot of fun. Got a chance to go away and just kind of relax and do non-hockey related things for a while, but now we're back. I've been covering games all week and ready to get back into the usual hockey-heavy life that I live, for sure.
Exactly. And let me tell you how much I appreciate that. Listen, if you guys aren't watching John when he does his game coverages, you guys got to be checking this guy out. Please click the like and subscribe for Off the Wall Hockey. Check him out. He does the live streaming of the games. You don't get to watch the game, but you get to hear John call the game just as if you were sitting there listening to it on the radio. And I'm here to tell you, he is far and away 10 times better than anybody else out there doing it. Check this man out. Be in the know.
Thank you. So we're going to get back into our usual show. We got top stories to start it off.
I'm excited, man.
But
I'm excited.
We do want to mention Manscaped and really, really appreciate all that they've done here for the Off the Wall Hockey Show. You can still get 20% off and free shipping when you use the promo code OTWH on your order at manscaped.com. Christmas may be over, but take some of that Christmas money and put it back into yourself and get something to make you look good, feel good, and make things a little bit better. So head over to manscaped.com. When you check out, make sure to use promo code OTWH. Helps us out a lot, and you can get 20% off your order and free shipping. And very, very appreciative to them for their support here at the Off the Wall Hockey Show.
All day long, for sure, all day long. So thank you very much for those guys. Really, really appreciate that. If you want to make yourself look good, that's the place where you want to be. Trust me. We use the product and we push the product because we use it. Yep. We believe in it. So, you know what I mean? It's something that we use. If we didn't use it, we wouldn't, tell you guys to use it. So trust me when we tell you it's something that you need to invest in for yourself if you want to make yourself look good and take care of yourself. So check it out, manscaped.com, 20% off, free shipping. Hit the OTWH in the gift, in the code block.
Yes.
put that code in there and get 20% off. So there you go. All right, man, let's
Top
go.
stories.
Top stories. Here we go. Here we go. Lead us off. Lead us off.
Well, hockey is back. We had a little bit of an extended Christmas break. It was a little longer than the usual 3 days, but hockey's back, and boy, has it come back strong. We've had some awesome games already post-Christmas since the return. There's been a lot of great action. It's been a whole lot of fun to do and a whole lot of fun to watch. And, man, there were 7 fights in the NHL last night. There's been overtime games. There's been, all kinds of great matchups. Divisional games have been really good. Like, it's almost like you had this little reset and everyone's come back a little bit stronger and a little bit more with the pedal to the metal since coming back from this Christmas break. And it's like, that was like the first part of the season. We had this little stoppage and it just kind of reset. And now it's like, okay, now it's crunch time. Now it's hockey time. And these teams are just ramping it up as we get deeper and deeper into the year. And it's been incredible to watch.
And you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that too, because I've noticed that too. It does seem like there's a little bit more, what's that word I'm looking for? Urgency, sense of urgency,
intensity, everything's ramped up.
Exactly. You know why I think it is? I think that the protocols changed during the break. A lot of issues changed during the break with the hockey clubs and how things are going to be handled with the NHL. And I also feel too that they're still trying to get to that the Olympic break or the All-Star break, even though the players aren't going to participate. They're still going to get a break or whatever the case is. So I think that's kind of why it feels that way in the league, because guys seem to be like, hey, I see this little thing here halfway through the season where I can get some time away. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so that's why it was really odd that they extended the Christmas break as long as they did. Mm-hmm. I mean, for some of the things I understand as far as that, I mean, that's kind of partially part of what my top story is as well. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The fact that there's still games being postponed.
Yeah, that's your top story, is that we're almost to 100 now.
Yeah. And the fact that, we're back and we're playing and there's games being played, okay, but there's still games being postponed as well, too.
A lot of them up in Canada. Because
right.
of the Canadian capacity restrictions that the U.S. just doesn't have. So,
exactly.
That we're still able to fill buildings down here, but up in Canada, they're not allowed to, except for, Saskatchewan has no restrictions, but they don't have an NHL team. But everywhere else, these teams weren't going to be allowed to have fans, or only going to be allowed to have a very small number of fans. And
exactly.
The owners in that situation don't even want to play because they're losing money. And if they're not going to be making money from people going to the game, then they don't even want to play. So we keep seeing more and more of these Canadian games get postponed, and it's not even because of the number of guys on the COVID list. It's because owners don't want to be playing in empty arenas.
And that makes so much sense that it's almost crazy. Because why would you want to send your team out there to play in front of an empty arena when an arena filled with fans is, a couple $1,000,000?
Yeah. From a business standpoint, the owners shouldn't want to play those games.
That's what I mean. So it's like, well, all right. So now what do you do? Right? So now you got all these games now that are being postponed, right? You've had all these games now that are being postponed, and you're trying to do this huge sweeping policy change with a new CBA and new agreements and new protocols and all this other stuff. It's going to take some time to adjust. You've basically taken exactly what you talked about doing at the beginning of the year and crumpled it up into a big giant wad of paper and went and threw it away.
Mm-hmm.
And then just opened up a new book and started writing new. All right. So if a team has this many guys or this, what, you know what I mean? So it's like, here we are again. There's teams now that have multiple players on the list, barely putting forward lines out there, and yet games are still being played.
The Flyers did it last night.
Exactly. And yet that game was still played.
Yeah.
And I go back to the Ottawa situation and the Islanders situation at the beginning, where it took 10 players on the Ottawa Senators for the NHL to step in.
Yep.
And then the Islanders only had 7 with one staff member. And then the next team was Calgary, and they only had 5 with one staff member. And then it was each, then became increasingly less and less.
Yeah, it's been all over the place now.
So it just seems like the higher you are up in the standings, the least amount of players you need to have on the list before games get to be postponed or changed or whatever. That's not a good message the NHL should be putting out there, as far as I'm concerned.
No, they didn't. They definitely haven't treated every team the same, and that was one of my big worries about this whole thing and going into it. And they haven't. I can't say I'm surprised, but they haven't. Some teams have gotten treated very differently than others, and that's just the way that it's worked out and the way that it's gone, unfortunately. But they're going to have to make a decision here, depending on how long these Canadian restrictions last, because you can't just keep postponing everything. Like, at some point, they're going to have to decide either we're playing in front of empty buildings or we're going to pull these Canadian teams to the U.S. and they're going to play somewhere in the U.S. because
you can't keep doing this.
They just can't keep adding more and more postponements to the list, or else they're going to be playing into July again. And the league doesn't want that, and that's been talked about. Pierre LeBrun was talking about it today, where they want to get back on the normal season schedule, with the beginning of the season in October and the Stanley Cup ending in early June. They want to get back to the normal schedule, and this year was kind of supposed to be that return to a somewhat normal season. And now we're already looking at the possibility of the regular season having to be extended, which would in turn extend the playoffs even further. And the way that it was set up already, the Stanley Cup was going to be in the end of June, not the beginning of June like it usually is. Now we could be seeing hockey in July again if they have to extend the season. The league doesn't want this off timeline to continue any longer than it has to do. So I feel like they're going to have to make a decision here. Either we're going to play these games with nobody in the crowd in Canada and just get the games done and over with, or they're going to have to pull these Canadian teams to the U.S. and play them in the U.S. for at least a little while these restrictions are in place. And that's what the NBA did with Toronto last year. Is they pulled them to
but there
Florida.
was only one team, though.
Well, yeah, because other sports only have one Canadian team.
You know what I mean?
The NHL's got 7, so that's a big decision to make. If you pull these Canadian teams to the U.S., you got to find homes for them.
I was just going to say that. Then all right, and then where do you put them?
Exactly, you got to.
Where do they play?
MLB, when they put the Blue Jays in Buffalo, they put them there. That they only had to move one team. The NBA, when they moved the Raptors, only has to move one team. The NHL, they'd have to move 7. That's a whole new ball game with that. But they're gonna have to do something, because they can't keep pushing all these games off.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if they keep doing that, it's just gonna make it that much more worse.
Yep.
All the way around, because now you got all these games now that are being postponed, and now you have to make up all these games now, and you're trying to give these guys a break, and there's no way you're going to be able to give them a break and still be able to get the games in and still be able to have everything done at the same time.
Yeah.
And be able to get done in a timely enough manner to where everything is good to go. And do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, there's only so many days in a year. You gotta.
And you can't have these guys playing. I mean, you can't have them do what they did last year, like where, they were playing 4 games a week. You know what I mean?
Some teams are getting to that point already where they're going to be
Yeah.
playing 4 games a week.
Yeah. I mean, maybe even the Canadian teams and stuff too, so. But now here we are. So it's like I was saying at the beginning of this whole situation here, whereas if I'm not a doctor, I'm not a professional, do you know what I mean? All these guys have had the shot. These guys are tested multiple times. It just seems like either somebody dropped the ball or, I mean, how does this suddenly become so overwhelming again? You know what I mean? You seemingly had a handle on things, and now it's like, well, I guess you didn't.
No, and nowhere has a handle on it now. It's exploding to heights that it's never even been to before.
I mean, here's the thing that we've been trying to talk about is that this is something that's going to be here to stay. And at some point, everyone's going to have to get to a point where this is just going to have to be part of what you have to deal with in life. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like I'm not trying to compare it.
Well, they're already starting to take baby steps in that direction because they cut the quarantine time in half. Instead of guys being out for 10 days now, they're only out for 5. And they're coming back already. Like, they're already taking steps.
Okay, very slow steps.
Well, yeah, it's going to be very slow steps, but they're heading that way to the realization that it's always going to be here now. Like, this is never going away. This is something that we just have to figure out how we're going to handle forever now because it's here forever. So, we're already like the shortened quarantine time. I mean, guys now, instead of missing like basically 2 weeks of games, are only missing like two, maybe 3 games now, and they're coming right back.
Okay, but still, you miss 5 days. That's potentially,
3 games.
3 games. Okay, that is potentially a lot of games, especially with a lot of these guys that are all like asymptomatic.
Oh, that's what Carter Hart was talking about the other day. But a lot of the players are fed up with everything that's going on.
But we haven't heard anything yet from the players. Do you know what I mean? Like, we haven't heard any of the players, like, reaching out on social media or doing interviews.
Quite a few of them have been complaining.
Yeah, complaining, but kind of quietly.
Well, yeah, they don't want to ruffle feathers.
Okay, so that's all right. Yeah, but you see what I mean, though. It's somewhere. I think the NHLPA is going to have to step in. You know what I mean? And be like, wait a minute, we need to do a reassess here and see what the frick is going on.
Well,
because
but I think there's some infighting in the NHLPA right now. So, I think there's some turmoil going on there where you've got different guys on different pages, and I think it's going to be a process. I think it's going to be a very slow process. Yeah. But eventually it's heading that way.
I mean, the sooner the league gets to that point, I think the better it's going to be for everybody involved. Do you know what I mean? I'm not trying to advocate for anything. I'm not trying to say that we're advocating teams, gloss over things or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is getting to a point where accepting the fact that this is going to have to just be part of life, and you're just going to have to either adopt a taxi squad if you want to keep playing, you want to keep doing what you're doing, then you're going to have to bend until you make it work. And postponing games is not making it work.
Yeah, no, I think that we're gonna not see teams getting postponed because of positives. A lot of these Canadian ones are because of this fan situation and not being able to have fans.
Agreed.
I don't think we're going to be seeing teams getting postponed because they have a bunch of positives anymore. I think they're just going to say, then call guys up. They're just going to say, call guys up and play. And the Flyers had to do it last night. They've got 6 guys out, and they just said, no, you're playing. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that. We're going to see a lot more of, we brought the taxi squads back at least through the All-Star break. Put it, whatever you can field, put them on the ice, and you guys are playing. We're done with this postponement stuff. And I think that I don't think we're going to see many more postponed games. I think teams are just going to get told that they're playing.
All right. I understand that, but what happened to all the teams that got games postponed because of that, and now they're completely turning it around and saying the exact opposite now, where it's like, well, sorry, you have the taxi squad now. They didn't have the taxi squad before, and they had 10 guys on the list. Didn't have the taxi squad, had 6 guys on the list, and they postponed games. Now they have 6 guys on the list. They have a taxi squad, but
they're not getting postponed.
They're not getting postponed. So I want to see a consistent something across the board.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to get that. I think they're going to keep taking their way of putting it is, we're taking this case by case, team by team, and that gives them the leeway to kind of just do what they want, and their league is never going to give that up. They're never going to give up that leeway to just kind of do it how they want at the time. And also, these teams that have a bunch of games postponed, they're going to be playing 4 games a week for the rest of the season.
No matter what.
But Boston's got, Jesus, where they play like 30, 31 games now, while other teams have played like 35, 36. Like, they've got so many other games to make up that they've had postponed because they didn't play for God, I think that 16 days they went without a game, and they had other postponements throughout the year earlier that weren't in long stretches like that as well. So, they've got a ton of games to play in the last few months of the year, and they're not far from the only team like that. Calgary's got a ton of games to play.
Philadelphia has 5.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams with a lot of games that they have to make up. So those teams are going to be playing 4 games in 7 days, a lot the end of the year, and that's not going to be fun, but that's going to be what they have to deal with. But I don't know.
I mean,
that's all I can say about this topic.
I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, we're back, but.
Except in Canada.
Yeah, right.
We're back, except in Canada.
If you're playing a Canadian team, you might as well just bank on that fact that you're not going to be playing. You know what I mean?
Or what they did with the Bruins-Canadiens game next week is they just made it in Boston.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be Bruins in Montreal, and they just made it in Boston.
Which, all right. I mean,
you got to, at least it's not a postponement. You got to play the game somehow, so they just made it a home game for the Bruins.
I guess if you're going to get to have a home game now and then switch it
I
later.
think what they'll do is they'll switch, and one that was supposed to be in Boston later in the year will just be in Montreal, I would imagine.
Hey, what do you know? That would be a great idea, gosh.
But they're divisional opponents, so they see each other enough times so you can do that. If you're Edmonton playing on the East Coast against a team that you play once in that city, then you don't have that same ability.
Yeah.
But for the divisional games, at least, why not? Why not just bring them to the U.S. and then play in Canada later in the year?
I mean, why not? Exactly. That would solve some of that issue.
Yeah.
To where at least those games won't have to be postponed.
Yeah.
Unless they're unless they're like Canadian team versus Canadian team.
Yeah, then you're kind of back stuck.
Yeah, so maybe then is when you're gonna, maybe you could see, and that's kind of where I think you're gonna see some of the schedule change here when you get to the break or before the break.
Yeah. I'm really glad I'm not a schedule maker. I know that.
Well, look at it like this. They have computer help.
Oh, I would imagine, yeah, that they've probably got an algorithm that they just plug everything into and click enter, and it just does it.
Yeah, I need to play Boston against Montreal, but it can't be this, can't be that, can't be this, can't be that, can't be this, and can't be that, and go. And it takes about 2 seconds and goes, all right, cool, this is when you can play. And you're like, hey, wow, all right, cool.
I hope the building's available that night.
Yeah, right. If it's not, well, I don't know what to tell you.
Finding a new day, I guess.
Guess you're playing in Providence then.
Yeah, have fun.
So, with that being said, I think that we have to get into obviously our second top story of the night, and that has to be the Pittsburgh Penguins. Just
holy cow.
I mean, 10 games now.
10 in a row.
10 in a row. I think Crosby's on a 5-game streak.
I honestly didn't even look at individual players.
Yeah,
all I know is
he's on a streak, and I think
I know Brian Rust is.
Rust is on a streak.
We'll talk about him later.
Right.
Yeah.
But and there's some other guys on the team that are on streaks too, but oh my gosh, man. Pittsburgh Penguins, they were missing Evgeny Malkin. They're still missing him. I mean, he's skating now, I think, right?
He's close to returning, but he hasn't played yet.
They've missed Crosby 2 times, once for injury and then once again for COVID.
Yep.
Right? They missed Gensel. They missed him for a while due to, was he on COVID or was it an injury?
I think he was injured.
I think he was injured, for a while. And then he was on the COVID list or something like that.
But feels like everybody's been on the COVID list by this point.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah, it seems like almost everybody in the league at some point has been.
So, I mean, but with still having those guys out of the lineup, those are major components of your team.
Jeff Carter's out now. He's had COVID, and he's actually been sick. He's had symptoms, and he's also back skating and kind of working his way back.
Okay, but the fact that Pittsburgh doesn't seem to matter who's out of the lineup, they just plug another player in there and then just keep winning.
That Pittsburgh's been able to do that for the past 15 years. It's unbelievable how they have that mentality, where they can just plug somebody in and it just still works.
Doesn't matter who's not playing.
No,
it doesn't matter.
I thought it might be like a system thing, but like they've been through different coaches. It's been the same thing. No matter who the coach is, what system they're running, like they just plug a guy in and it works. And we've seen a lot of that this year.
And see, a lot of it has to do with the fact that Sidney Crosby is he is a generational player. You can't deny his skill and talent. You just can't.
No,
okay?
He's unreal. And this team's 3 points out of first place now. 3 points. So many good teams in the Metro. The top of the Metro is just disgustingly stacked with Washington, the Rangers, Hurricanes, Penguins. Pittsburgh's pulled themselves on this winning streak to only being 3 points out of first place. So
it's funny that we'd said, the Metro is going to be really, really, competitive this year, but not with the teams that we normally expected. We weren't really expecting the Washingtons and the Pittsburghs to be there. I mean, we were expecting the Carolinas to be there, obviously. You know what I mean? But the Washingtons and the Pittsburghs, and we kind of felt they were gonna take a step back this year.
Well,
You know,
Washington was the one that I thought was going to step back, and that just hasn't been the case at all. They've probably been better this year than they were last season.
that's what I was just gonna say. I think they were too, and I really didn't really feel that, especially with Malkin and Crosby missing the beginning of the season. I thought Pittsburgh was going to take a step back as well.
Yeah, I thought that
but
would definitely affect them, and it just
but it didn't.
not really. Well, actually, it kind of did, because this was a team. They're 28-5 right now, but they're on a 10-game winning streak. So these last 10 wins have all came in a row, which means before this winning streak, they were only 10-8-5. Which is, I mean, they were in a wild card spot. They were fine, but that wasn't anything spectacular, being 10-8-5.
Right.
It's really this stretch has just propelled them from like borderline wild card territory into being one of the top teams in the conference.
Yeah. It's amazing what 10-game win streaks and 20 points will do for you. Gosh.
I mean, that's a massive, massive shift in points.
That right there, see, that's what the good teams do. Boston does it. Tampa Bay does it. Carolina does it. Florida does it. They go on those little benders where they win 5, 6, 7 games in a row, right?
Well, Boston did it before this year. They used to do it, but...
Okay, well, but I mean, they're getting older now. But I mean, for the most part, Boston has consistently been there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
From a season by season standpoint.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
And now we're seeing the Tampa Bays and the Carolinas and the Floridas, right, are stepping up into that void now, because you're seeing teams like Philadelphia drop away.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, and you're seeing teams like the Islanders dropping away.
Yeah, talk about dropping away this year. Holy cow.
Right, complete 180 compared to where they were last year.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's why I think Pittsburgh is taking advantage of the situation. They are at the right place at the right time. They're playing the right teams at the right time, apparently. Yep. You know what I mean? And they just seem to have the lineup that Jarry doesn't have to be the best player on the ice. The defense doesn't have to be the best defense on the ice, and the offense doesn't have to be the best offense on the ice. As long as they're good enough, then they're able to win games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, no, they've won a lot of different ways this year, and they're just one of those teams that seems to have that knack to just find a way to win. And
exactly.
some teams have that and some teams don't, and Pittsburgh just finds a way to win. If it's going to be high scoring, they can score 7-8 goals. If it's going to be low scoring, they can, Gerry can shut it down and they can win 3-1. If they need to come from behind, they just did it the other night. I did the Blues Penguins game on Wednesday. Pittsburgh was down 3-1 in the second period of that game.
I know.
And they came back and won that game 5-3. And they can do that. Mm-hmm. It's a team that just can find ways to win in every situation, and they're obviously doing that to a T right now because they haven't lost in 10 games. So
exactly. I almost picked that game. I almost picked that game. I thought you were going to pick.
That was a very good game.
I thought you were going to pick that game because that was one that you did.
That was a very good game.
Okay, so but I didn't pick that game. But anyway, so. We'll talk about that later. But the fact that the Penguins still continue to seem to be able to just put it together, night in and night out, season in, season out, it doesn't matter.
It's impressive. It's downright impressive.
It is. And, Perlo was talking about this the other day about how he still thinks that Fleury is making his way east. Wow. He's still trying to get back to Pittsburgh.
Could you imagine something?
Right. So could you imagine him at the trade deadline? They bring Fleury back into Pittsburgh.
That would be something. Holy cow.
That would probably vault Pittsburgh to instant cup contender just by doing that. I mean,
Oh,
even if
yeah.
it's a rental,
I think they might be a cup
even
contender
if they only get
already,
to
but
play him for the rest of this year.
yeah, yeah, I think it probably would be a rental, but I think they could be a cup contender already, but certainly, I mean, if you were to add to that team, like, oh my gosh, and Fleury or that kind of goaltending,
Exactly.
unreal. That would be absolutely
It is.
unreal.
It is. It's like, and I know that Jarry's been playing better.
Oh, he's
I
actually
know
been
that.
really good this year.
Exactly. But if they could get Fleury, I really think, I mean, hey, what do I know, right? I'm not the prognosticator. I say that for other people to do that.
Yeah, that's true. But Pittsburgh 10 in a row, that's pretty impressive on their part, to say the least. And I have a feeling that we're going to be not done talking about Pittsburgh tonight, and certainly not done
Nope.
talking about Pittsburgh as far as the rest of this season goes, because I think that's a team that is going to be there and going to be making a push.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they're going to go away anytime soon, does it? And
No.
especially now with the likes of the Islanders and Philadelphia dropping considerably off.
Yeah. No, I agree
Do you
with
know what I
that.
mean?
And
I don't.
Pittsburgh's still going to be there.
Yeah. I still think you're going to see Pittsburgh is going to be there no matter what. But man, good on them to be 10 games in a row, man. That's pretty impressive.
All right, well, I think that's going to bring us to the end here of Top Stories, and we're going to have a quick commercial break. You're going to hear from...
Hopefully.
Yeah, you're going to hear from show sponsor Manscaped, and then when we come back, we'll get into our regular segments. We'll have Power Rankings coming up next, Top Shelf, always one of the best, and it's quite a list this week. Again, a lot of teams still just kind of right on top of each other, really, really close in the standings. So we'll be talking about the best of the best in just a minute. But first, here's a word from Manscaped. The holidays have come early this year as Manscaped have the gift that keeps on trimming. Santa's beard isn't so appealing when it's coming out of your trousers, and that's why Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, have you covered this holiday season. Now available in your country, join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped to keep their trees trimmed and ornaments polished. Go to manscaped.com and use the code OTWH for 20% off and free shipping. It's time to kill two birds with one trimmer and get yourself and your lady a gift. I am talking about the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0, a great gift for any man in your life. I've used a few different products to get the job done down there, and none of them are as smooth and effective as the Lawnmower 4.0. This electric trimmer has proprietary advanced skin-safe technology to reduce nicks and cuts on your nuts. It's also waterproof, so you can use it in the shower. It's like a gift to your partner with less mess. The Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Crop Preserver and Crop Reviver, an anti-chafing deodorant, moisturizer, and toner for your special package. This hygiene bundle will also come with a pair of Manscaped anti-chafing boxers that is the perfect wrapping for your presents. The Manscaped Performance Package comes with all the tools to clean up his delicate places. Included in the new package is the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, which is waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system. Nobody, not even Santa, wants hairs down under their chimney. Manscaped is going beyond the groin with their new refined cologne, which offers a light yet masculine, pleasing fragrance that will leave your lady on the naughty list this year. It's made with hypoallergenic ingredients that are vegan, cruelty-free, dye-free, and paraben-free. 'Tis the season to load up on Manscaped products, so go get yourself, your dad, your brother, and friends the best gift of all, the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code OTWH at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Just use code OTWH. Clean up your nuts and make Santa proud this year. All right, everybody. Now it is time for one of our favorite segments of the show, Top Shelf, our power rankings, looking at the best teams in the NHL. And Steele, looking at our list here, we have the same exact list for power rankings this week. So,
Okay, first of all, let me just say this. Okay, I saw what you did there.
point percentage.
Okay, I saw what you did there, right? Because
Yeah.
I originally put my list out, and it was not even close to this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I went and all I do is I look at who has the most points in the league.
Yeah.
And that's who I go by the top teams usually. And then I'll look at the record and see what the record looks like, and then I'll look at the winning percentage.
Yeah.
And then I'll look at the goal differential.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's usually how I judge my teams, And then when I saw what you did here and I was like, ooh, yeah, I like that. And when I went back and looked, it changed my list
quite a bit.
Yeah.
It changed quite a bit because the games played are very different this year. Like, there's a big discrepancy. Usually teams are all around, similar, like within like 3 games or so of each other, but there's a big discrepancy this year with some teams having only played, 31-ish games and other teams have played almost 40.
40, yeah.
So I just clicked point percentage and said this will give me the best idea of who's actually getting the most points out of the most games this year. So,
and it actually works out to be quite correct.
Yes, it does.
Because if you look at it, right, if you look at it from the bottom, because we always start at 5th, right? So you look at it from the bottom and you look at Washington and you go, wow, all right, Washington's put together a pretty nice season so far. They're 26-8. Yep. Okay. They've got a lot of overtime wins, which means they're still getting points.
Yep.
Okay. So they're scoring a lot of points, but they have 20 wins.
Yeah.
And they only have 6 regulation losses.
Yep.
Right. And their goal differential is plus 30.
Yes.
Right. So when you look at that compared to, like, say, the New York Rangers, right, who are very similar as far as record, as far as goal differential is a little bit skewed on the Rangers compared to the Capitals.
Yep.
But their winning percentage is a little slightly different.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? But they're kind of, Washington, New York. They're not. You know what I mean? They're not that dissimilar.
There's not a lot separating them.
Exactly.
And that's why I just went strictly with the point percentage number, because there wasn't really much else separating them. So I just said, okay, well, one's got a higher point percentage. That's the one we're going with.
That's right.
Yeah.
I like it because it works out great.
Yeah. And all 5 of these teams have a point percentage over 700. So
all of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the Rangers do too. Right. But I think they're the
last. Colorado does too. I think.
I think they're like the last one, and I think Calgary does too. Or is Calgary the first one that's in the 6s?
I think Calgary might be the first one below.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, but I know where you're going with that, right? So I'm with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm following that line of thinking. So I changed my whole list to match this, and it turned out to be exactly the same. So I was like, hey, well, hey, what do you know? Gosh, we think along the same lines anyway. So why not?
Yes, math. All right, so number 5 is the team that we were just mentioning, the Washington Capitals, who are 26-8 on the season with a 706 point percentage and a plus 30 goal differential this year. Washington, we've talked quite a bit about their season along, as this year's gone along. And, they were a team that we thought could be one of those kind of fallback teams this year, and it just hasn't been the case at all.
Exactly. Now, granted, their goaltending, it could use a little help.
Yeah.
Okay, but for the most part, now, look, they've missed TJ Oshie for a significant portion of time. Okay, and they've missed some other guys as well. Yep. Backstrom missed some significant time as well, too. He missed the whole first part of the season.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's not like Washington was coming out of the gates fully healthy, fully flying. You know what I mean? And now they're starting to get some of these pieces back, and they're just kind of picking up where they left off. It's not like they were dragging that far behind anyway.
Yep.
But now with these guys back in the lineup now, they're starting to win those games that they weren't winning at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Not that they've lost. I mean, seriously, they've only lost 6 regulation games.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think makes them, one of the best teams this year is that
Yeah.
they're getting a point, at least a point, out of a large majority of their games. They're not
out of
losing
28 of their 35 games.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not losing in regulation very often. So,
Exactly.
if you're picking up points, that's going to keep you right up near the top of the standings. Even in games that you don't necessarily win, you're at least getting that point.
Exactly. That bodes well for teams at the top end of the divisions of the league. It doesn't necessarily bode well with teams at the back end.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because you're getting a point, but you need 2.
You need 2. Yeah, those teams need to try and catch up, and you're not going to catch up getting 1 point.
Get 1 point, right? Exactly.
For the top teams to get something out of almost every game just keeps you stapled right up there at the top.
Pretty much, exactly. Yeah. And I think that pretty much is the theme throughout this entire week's Top Shelf Power Rankings. Because if you look at each of these teams, they either have 7, 6, or 8 regulation losses.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, they're all still in single digits.
Yep.
Okay, as regulation losses. And then they have a good handful, with the exception of Carolina and Toronto, but the rest of them have a good handful of overtime losses where, they lost the game, but they still got a point.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I think that I like that way of looking at things, and I think we should adopt that from now on moving forward with our Top Shelf Power Rankings.
Definitely.
Whoever has the highest win percentage, that's who our top 5 is going to be.
Yeah, definitely.
So who do you got for number 4?
Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay Lightning. Now they were number 1 overall in the league standings wise, but when you drop it, they've played a lot of games. So when you drop it to point percentage, they drop to number 4. Still, 23, 8, and 5. There's certainly no complaining about that. 708 point percentage, plus 16 goal differential. Defending champions. Tampa is what we expected Tampa to be. And, they haven't really missed a beat despite losing the pieces that they lost in the offseason. They're still one of the best teams. And I think they're going to continue to be that way as long as that core group stays in place. And now with Kucherov coming back, there's another big piece back into the lineup.
Big time. Brandon Point coming back too. He missed some time at the beginning of December, coming back at the end of December.
Yep.
And Kucherov coming back too. And I was like, okay, gosh. And then you have Vasilevsky. And then you have Stamkos, and then you have Kilgore, and then you have
Hedman and McDonough, and it's the list
you
goes.
Just keep rattling guys off.
Cirelli, the list just goes on and on with the Lightning.
Talk about stacked.
Yeah, stacked team, still top 5 in the league. Very, very good in just finding ways to win like they usually do.
Exactly. Right. Now here's the surprise for me. Because I was not expecting the number 3 team on my list. It's also the number 3 team on your list. But I was not expecting this team to be at this point, at this time during the season, right? I just was not expecting Toronto.
Yeah.
The Maple Leafs to just be, I have them ranked number 3.
Yeah.
Right?
22, 8, and 2.
They've only had 2 overtime losses, and they've only had 8 regulation losses.
Yep.
Toronto, we're talking about the Maple Leafs here, folks. What is going on up there?
They're good.
They got defense.
Oh, it's amazing.
Goaltending.
It's amazing what goaltending will do for you. Jack Campbell. Campbell's got to be top 3 for the Vezina at this point.
Has to be, yeah.
Yeah. 719 point percentage for Toronto, plus 30 goal differential.
Yeah, wow. Getting it done.
I expected the Leafs to be a playoff team, but I wasn't expecting them to be one of the top teams in the league. This has been a fantastic year for them.
Oh my gosh. Now all they have to do, is take what you're doing now, and right?
Bring it to the playoffs.
Put that in a bottle, right? And fill that Gatorade bottle up with it when you get into April.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So you're still drinking that same Kool-Aid while you're, but that's all they need to do.
They need it come playoff time. I mean, they could, What they do in the regular season really doesn't matter. They could win the President's Trophy. They could be the best team in the league. If they don't perform in the playoffs and if they're out in the first round again, this season is yet another failure for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So they've got to do it come playoff time. They're certainly doing it now in the regular season.
And they have been. Like, if you look at last year, they pretty much owned the North from jump.
Yeah, in the regular season, they were dominant in the North Division.
That's what I mean.
Then,
you know what I mean? And even the year before when they went to the bubble.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Even Toronto has a great regular season. Mm-hmm. They just always seem to be able to play really well during the regular season. But then when it comes to the playoffs, it's like, what happens?
It doesn't translate.
It doesn't translate. Exactly. So that's going to be interesting to see how this works out for them this year.
Yeah, this is a huge year for them come playoff time. They have to perform in the playoffs this year.
For sure. But for right now, man, number 3 in the league as far as top shelf power rankings, man. Go
Leafs
Toronto.
Are good.
They are good, and I would not want to be playing. If the playoffs started today, see, that's what they need, right? They need the playoffs to start like now.
Well, right? They'd be playing Tampa Bay in the first round.
Okay, but still, but you know what I mean? Like, they're playing really well right now, so they need the playoffs to start now instead of like in April.
Yeah, well, we'll see how they're playing come the end of April and when we get into postseason action. But
exactly. All right, man. Well, with that said, who do you got at number 2?
Florida Panthers.
Yes, sir.
This team's just unbelievable. This team's
They just keep
good.
rolling. Oh, my gosh.
721 point percentage, plus 30 goal differential, 22-7-5 on the year. Florida's outstanding. This team's been great all year, and I don't see any signs of them slowing down at all. I think this is going to be a top team all season long.
You know, I've been watching Florida a lot this year. Mm-hmm. And I was really concerned when Quenneville got fired. I really thought, oh man, here we go. Mm-hmm. This is going to be bad, right? But doesn't matter because
didn't miss a beat.
They had a little stretch there where they had like 3, 4, 5 games where they lost a couple, and you know what I mean, and weren't playing real well or whatever. Like right when that whole thing went down, and then right after that, it was like. Coach who? What?
Yeah.
What? Who? What? Bobrovsky has been playing out of his freaking gourd, right? Watching him make saves now is like watching him playing, 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah, it's amazing what goaltending can do for you.
Well, then you top it off with Barkov coming back, and that really has helped Florida because that was their captain.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And when you get your captain back, that's like, hey, all right. So that has really solidified what's going on there in Florida. Huberdeau, Duclair, the guys they have on their team that's been playing really well. They've been putting it together. Bob has been playing outstanding. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, we talked, I think that Florida is going to be one of the teams knocking on the door for the Chalice this year. I'm calling it right now. Florida, I think, is going to be one of the contenders for the Cup this year.
Yeah, and they're going to have to, again, another team like Toronto that's going to have to figure it out come playoff time. They don't have quite the same regular season history as Toronto until these last couple of years. But
true.
They are another team that hasn't won a playoff series in a long, long time.
True, but look what they ran into. Like last year, they ran into the Tampa Bay Juggernauts.
Yeah.
Right, in the first round.
Not the first round matchup that they were hoping for.
Right. So I think if they would have had a lower seeded team, they might have gone a little further. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to see them in the playoffs this year because I think they're better this year than they were even last year.
I agree.
I think they're getting better goaltending. They're better defensively this year. I want to see them in the playoffs this year, and they have a chance to win the division and match up against a wild card team. That could be a really interesting first round for Florida. But they are another team that I think really needs to start to show it in the playoffs.
Yeah. I agree with you on that 100%. But I think the whole meltdown of Bob last year And the fact that they were missing players, excuse me, that they were missing some of their major players throughout the playoffs. Do you know what I mean? I think that really hindered them.
Yeah.
And now I think you're right. I think this is a much better team than what they were last year by far and away. Even though they still have the same goaltender.
Yeah, he's just playing a lot better this year.
He's just playing a lot better now.
They're only going to go as far as their goaltending will take them. So, if he keeps, the goals against below 3, they're going to be, I think, okay. If he starts getting lit up for 4 goals a game again, then you're going to have a big problem.
But they have Spencer Knight to just slot right in and pick right up. It's like, doesn't even matter if Bob's there or not because Spencer's in.
Yeah, he's going to be interesting to watch the rest of the year because he's had a very up and down start. His numbers overall aren't all that great. So
right, but he is a good goaltender.
Oh, he's a very, very good goaltender. He's going to be the franchise guy.
Yeah, I mean, clearly.
He's going to be a franchise guy for sure.
Clearly, for sure. I mean, it might not necessarily be from Florida, but he's going to be a franchise goaltender.
If I'm Florida, I'm doing everything I can to keep Spencer Knight.
Well, yeah, because they got rid of the cat behind him, who was the next best guy who played for Canada in the World Juniors that same year.
Devin Levi.
Levi, yeah.
Yeah, they traded him. So.
That's what I mean. So they're definitely counting on Spencer Knight to be the man. After Bob. So, all right. Well, here we go now. Our number 1 team in the league, far and away.
Yeah, I mean, their point percentage is way better than anybody else's.
By a huge margin.
Amount.
Right, and we're talking about the Carolina Hurricanes. Oh, my gosh. Wow, number 1 team in the league by far and away, 23-7-1.
Yep.
That's right. I read that correctly. 23-7-1.
Yeah, they only have 8 total losses combined between OT and regulation.
And they've only played 31 games.
Yeah.
Like, they haven't played, like, the super number of games, like 36, 35.
They've played a lesser number of games than a lot of other teams. They already have 21 regulation wins, which leads the league. And they've played less games than a lot of other teams. 758 point percentage for them.
Wow.
Plus 40 goal differential.
Good gravy.
Plus 40 through 31 games. Dominant hockey team.
They could stink the rest of the year, and their goal differential will probably still be plus at the end of the year.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. Plus 40 goal differential is the best in the league, by the way.
Wow. I think last year they were in the 50s for their goal differential. Last year they were in the 50s, I think.
Yeah,
like
probably
58 or something crazy like that. I think they finished with. Look, Carolina. Now, let me just throw a quick little number at you here for you. All right. They are 109 for 119 in the power kill or the penalty kill.
Yeah. Elite.
They've had 119 power plays against, and they have shut down all but 10 of them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's serious team right there, folks.
That's a phenomenal penalty kill.
That's an 89%. Well, yeah, 89%. If you do the math, that's 89% on the penalty kill. That is insane. The fact that they've only had 119 penalties called says a lot too, because there's teams out there that have way more than that, right, called against them.
Yeah.
Right. So they're not getting called for a lot of penalties, but the penalties that they are getting called for, they're shut them down.
They're killing off. Yep.
Yeah, they're killing off. So, I mean, hey, be one of those teams that doesn't get a lot of penalties called against you. And then when you do get a penalty called against you, you shut it down. What do you know?
Yeah, their special teams in general are very, very good. That's definitely a point of emphasis with Carolina.
I think that has a lot to do with the coach. The coach was a great special teams player. He was great on the power play. He was great on the penalty kill.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I think that is reflected in how Carolina plays.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely agree, 100%.
Yep. So there you go, man.
There's your number one team right now.
That's right, Carolina. So there you have it. So we all have Carolina number 1, Florida number 2, Toronto number 3, Tampa Bay number 4, and Washington Capitals at number 5.
Yes.
Wow, dude. I'll tell you what. That's a pretty serious. Like that's. I don't know about you, man, but that's pretty much the elite of the league right there.
Oh, notice that they're all Eastern Conference.
Okay, see, that was going to be my next point, man. Gosh, it's like you're reading my mind or something, man. What?
I think there's a stark difference between the East and the West. Like there's like just the way the teams are made up, the way the teams are compacted, like built, and the way that they're all compact in the standings in the West. Like there's a big difference between Eastern Conference play and Western Conference play.
Well, but I also think, too, where most of all of the worst teams in the league are in the West. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Philadelphia's not doing all that great. Yeah, New Jersey's not doing all that great. Yeah, Detroit's not doing all that great. But they're not considered right now to be the worst teams in the league. I mean, they're on the bottom, pretty much.
Yeah, I think it's fairly well, Arizona is obviously the worst, but right. Montreal is actually just as bad as Arizona.
That's what I mean, right? So, but that's
Ottawa, Seattle are pretty similar.
But see, Ottawa and Seattle, they're both Western teams. Arizona, Western team.
Ottawa's in the East.
Ottawa's in the East.
Yeah. No, it's really split. If you look at the 6 bottom teams right now, you've got Arizona and Seattle from the West, and then you've got Montreal, Ottawa, Buffalo, and New York, the Islanders from the East. And then Chicago from the West.
Okay.
New Jersey from the East, Philadelphia from the East, Columbus from the East, Detroit from the East. Actually, the bottom. See, that's why
All right, I'll shut up.
No, I think that's why the top of the East is able to kind of separate themselves higher than the top of the West, because the top of the East is picking up points against these bottom of the East teams who are really, really bad.
Right.
And to me, the Western Conference is more compact. Like there are a lot more teams stacked on top of each other in the West.
Yes, you mean like as far as how they play, as far as similarly, as far as how they're made up, or
just where they're at in the standings.
Okay, I got you.
Where they're at in the standings, like there's not. Nashville is the number 1 team in the Western Conference right now with 48 points. And you can go all the way down to 10th in the conference, which is Edmonton, who has 38 points. So
right.
That's 10 points separating 10 teams.
I know. What?
Everyone in the West is on top of each other, where there's a little bit more separation between the top and the bottom in the East.
Okay. So then what I said was reversed. The teams in the East seems to have more of the worst teams, and then the teams in the West, because they're much more competitive, have teams that are not near the bottom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like if you look at the East, 13th place in the Eastern Conference is the New York Islanders with 26 points.
Yeah.
They're, 12 points out of a playoff spot.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
13th place in the Western Conference is the Vancouver Canucks with 35 points, and they're only
8.
Even where are
less than that, 6.
They're like 5. Let me pull the wild
5
card.
or 6 points.
5 or 6 points out of a wild card spot.
Okay, so that is a huge discrepancy there, because with only being 5 or 6 points out of playoff, that means you still can fight.
They're 4 points out of a playoff spot.
That's even better.
At 13th in the conference, 13th in the conference in the West,
gosh.
They're 4 points out of a playoff spot.
Wow.
Whereas in the East, you're 12 points out of a playoff spot.
That's not so good.
Yeah, so like there's a bigger gap in the East than in the West, where everybody's just on top of each other. But that's allowed the top of the East to kind of pull away.
Exactly. So, but all right. Well, there you go. There's our top shelf power rankings, and man, I'll tell you what, I really love doing these power rankings.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun, And so now we're going to move into another really fun segment that we like to do, and that is our best game of last week.
Yep.
And this was a game that we felt that you probably should have tuned into. If not, we'll give you a quick little breakdown. And John, why don't you lead us off with your game selection of the best game of last week?
Yeah, so we got to go back to January 4th, Colorado versus Chicago. This was a crazy game. Ended up a 4-3 overtime win for the Colorado Avalanche on one of the best goals of the entire year. But the Avalanche actually got out to a 2-0 lead in the first period of this game. And it looked like Colorado was going to dominate all the way through. But then Chicago came storming back, actually took a 3-2 lead over Colorado. Colorado was able to tie it in the third period. They go to overtime 3-3, and then Cale Makar, with one of the best goals of the entire season, does this ridiculous stop spin move on Kirby Dach. He gets around Dach, then drives the net, goes forehand, backhand, and roofs it on Marc-Andre Fleury for the OT winner. Colorado picks up the 2 points. Wins the game in overtime, and finishes off a phenomenal game with a division rival in the Chicago Blackhawks. So that is my best game of this past week.
And I'm here to tell you, folks, I think that is going to have to go down as better than the Zegras lacrosse style goal that they did. I think that has to go down as the best goal so far of the year. Right, did you saw the one?
Yeah, no, I still have Connor McDavid going through 4 Rangers as my goal of the year.
All right. Yeah, all right, okay.
And then doing the same thing a week later against Winnipeg and literally doing it again.
Yeah. All right, okay.
There's been some sweet goals this year. This was definitely top 5, though. This was
okay. I was just gonna say this has to be in the running for at least one of the top 5.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Spots for best goals for the year.
Yeah.
For sure. This game was really exciting to watch. I've been trying to watch more of like the Colorado, Florida type games, following those guys a little bit more this year too. And this was one that I happened to catch a little bit of too, and that was really fun to watch some of this too. My game happened on the same day, and this was the team that we talked about leading the West, which is Nashville.
Yeah, who would have guessed that?
Right, against Vegas Golden Knights. This happened on the same day. It was on the 4th of January, and man, I'll tell you what. Like, it just looked like Nashville was just going to, I mean, they jumped out to a 3-0 lead over Vegas. And like, what happened? Yep. What's going on? Like, where is Vegas? And man, throughout the rest of the game, they tried really hard. They had some great chances. Vegas played their butts off. They fell a little bit short at the end. They got 2 goals back, but Nashville was able to hang on to that game. And man, I'll tell you what, that watching Nashville just open up and splay Vegas like that, and then watching Vegas go, I think we need to make some adjustments, coach.
Yep.
But they came back out right in the second and third period, and I think they won the second and third period.
Yep.
Just how I feel. Okay, so this was a good game to watch. It was, Vegas came a little bit short. Nashville was able to hold on to win, but this game was back and forth. Vegas had some great chances at the end, man. They almost got it, but just fell a little bit short. But that was my game where Nashville wins 3-2 in regulation over Vegas on the 4th.
Yeah, phenomenal game there between the leader of the Central Division against the leader of the Pacific Division. And Nashville hanging on for that win actually is the difference in the Western Conference right now.
It is.
Nashville has 48 points and Vegas has 47. So
and it wasn't an overtime game either. It was a regulation.
So that win right there for Nashville has them in first place ahead of Vegas. So that was a phenomenal game and 2 very, very good teams in the Western Conference.
Might be a little foreshadowing here, I think. Maybe.
I'd be all for that.
Right. This was a great game. I mean, if it wouldn't have been for that first period where Nashville just opened up and splayed Vegas, but I think if Vegas comes back fully healthy and is able to, and I would like to see this I think this would be a great playoff matchup.
Oh, I agree.
Nashville and Vegas.
Yeah, that would have to be the conference final.
Okay.
If both teams were able to get that far. But that would be a tremendous playoff matchup.
I'd have to agree with you on that one. I don't think either one of those teams are going to make it in the West, but that would be a nice matchup.
I think no matter who these two play against in the playoffs, it's going to be a great matchup because even in their own divisions, they're lining up to have some really good playoff matchups, even as early as the first round.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
That'd be a lot of fun.
I agree.
But that'd be a heck of a conference final if we got Vegas versus Nashville.
Well, that would mean a lot of things would have had to have gone wrong for Anaheim.
And Colorado.
And
St. Louis.
And
Calgary.
Because I'm telling you what, man, if you look at that and you look at Calgary and St. Louis and Colorado, and then you have to throw Anaheim in there. Anaheim's my dark team.
Yeah.
That's who I'm picking this year as my dark horse team is Anaheim.
Yeah, so just kind of an aside here, if we're looking at the Western Conference, the playoff matchups right now out west would be St. Louis versus Colorado, again, as the 2-3 matchup in the Central. You'd have Anaheim versus Calgary as the 2-3 matchup in the Pacific. Wow. And then you would have Nashville against LA as the first seed versus the second wild card. And then you would have Minnesota against Vegas like we had last year in the first round.
Reversed. Minnesota as the number one seed?
No, Minnesota is a wild card team in Vegas. Okay. Vegas is the first team in the Pacific.
Okay. Oh, my gosh.
Talk about 4 playoff matchups that I would want to watch every second of.
Yeah, I would really like to see that rematch.
I would love to see Vegas and Minnesota play again.
Me too, only a different ending.
I feel like Minnesota might have the team that could take it this time.
See, that's what I mean. Not only a different ending.
Although I question Minnesota's goaltending, but
well, yeah, we'll see.
So in the East, I mean, the playoff. I just want playoffs because these playoffs would be absurd. You'd get Tampa Bay against Toronto as the 2-3 matchup in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
You'd get the New York Rangers against the Washington Capitals as the 2-3 matchup in the Metro. And then Carolina as the 1 seed from the Metro would play the number 1 wild card team, which right now is the Pittsburgh Penguins. So you get Pittsburgh against Carolina.
Oh my gosh.
And then you would get Boston against Florida as the 1 seed versus the second wild card.
John, listen, man. I mean, your boys pulled off a great game last night, but
they did.
I
don't think they're beating Florida in a playoff series.
Not in a 7-game. No,
they might win a game or 2, but I don't think they're beating Florida in a best of 7.
Okay, so
I don't think they're beating Tampa either.
Yeah, I don't either.
They can win a couple games against Tampa, but they're not going to beat them in a playoff series.
Right, I'm with you. I'm with you.
All right.
For sure.
So, yeah, playoffs would be sick if they started right now, and we're probably going to end up getting matchups somewhat similar to this come
I would
May,
think.
because I don't think we're going to see any drastic movement from teams. Maybe 1 or 2 here or there, but most teams are kind of in the spot where they're going to be.
And are starting to separate themselves now that we're starting to get closer to the halfway point here. Exactly, where teams are starting to separate.
We're starting to see who's a playoff team and who isn't, for sure.
Exactly. And with that, I think now we have to get into our 3 stars of the week.
Yeah, let's talk about some great players.
We've talked about some really great teams.
Yep.
Right. So now let's focus in on our 3 top stars of the week.
Yes.
And these were 3 of the most outstanding players that we felt, obviously. We don't go by the standards that other outlets, networks do. We have our own. As you can plainly see.
We came up with our same list this week.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of crazy when it all works out like that. It's like, gosh, we've done this now for 58 shows,
50.
50 shows.
50
This is
shows.
our 50th show, and we still put the same guys in for the top stars. We still put the same top stories in, even though we sometimes do this list at different times during the day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we do it at the same time during the
Yes,
day.
that's happened a few times.
It's happened a few times, but it's like, yeah, but I think when you look at the players that we're going to be discussing, you can't not put these guys as the 3 stars.
This was the easiest number one I think I've ever seen in the history of this show.
There was one where it was the McDavid where he did like 8 points in one night or something crazy like that last year. That was the only one that was the easiest.
Yeah, this was a dominant number one.
Yeah, I'll go with you on that. Well, with that said, though, so let's start with number 3. Who do we got at number 3 and our 3 stars of the week? Number 3.
Nathan McKinnon, Colorado Avalanche, 3 games played, only 1 goal, but 8 assists for 9 points, a +5 rating, 3 points on the power play, 6 of them coming even strength, literally averaging out 3 points per game for the Colorado Avalanche. 3 points per game, I think that says it right there.
I mean, that is, he's close to that. I mean, we've said his name many times. We've mentioned him many times. He's probably been on this list a few times this year so far. I know he has.
Definitely.
And what is he averaging now? Is he like, he's got to be one of those guys that's at like 1.78 points per game or something crazy like that?
Up there. He's one of
That's
the best,
what I mean.
He's one of the best players in the league.
Yeah.
He has missed time this year, though.
Yeah, I know he has missed time this year, and he's coming back and everything like that. You know what I mean? And
so, oh my God, Nathan McKinnon has only played 21 games this year. I didn't realize he missed that much time.
Wow.
He's only played 21 games this year. He has 34 points. He's scoring 1.62 points per game.
Okay, I wasn't that far off. I said 1.78.
1.62 points per game.
He's only played 21 games. Oh my God.
He's got a better point per game than Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Alex Ovechkin and Jonathan Huberdeau. Now, he's played less games, but his points per game is 0.01 higher than Connor McDavid.
There you go.
Nathan McKinnon is elite. Nathan McKinnon is a top 5 player in the NHL.
Breaking news.
Yeah, no, there's
Nathan
nobody
McKinnon
else.
Nathan McKinnon is an elite player.
Yeah, I mean,
gosh,
Matthews is at 1.2 points per game. Panarin's at 1.16. Even his teammate Landeskog's got 35 points in 26 games, 1.35 points per game. McKinnon's got a higher points per game than all of these guys.
All of them. Yeah, hands down. All right. I mean, good gravy. And he's playing like, 17, 18 minutes a game? Like, he's not being completely over, like he's not doing like 25 minutes a game. You know what I mean? No,
he does play
20 minutes?
Yeah, like I would say probably around, let's see what they
18,
have
19,
here.
20 minutes?
Time on ice per game is just under 17. Nope, wrong guy. Never mind. Where did McKinnon go? Oh, 21:45.
Oh, well, all right. So he's playing 21 minutes a game.
That's a lot for a forward.
That's a lot for a forward.
Big minutes.
That's big minutes.
I mean, he's your best player, so.
And look who he's playing with.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean.
Landeskog, Rantanen, Makar on the back end.
Yeah, like
probably
I said,
getting loads of power play time. They don't.
I would assume
on the main stats you can break it down. I'd love to see the breakdown of power play time versus even strength time for McKinnon because I bet you he gets loads of power play time.
Which is probably why his minutes are way up.
Yeah, 4 of those 21 minutes are
Is
power
power
play
play?
time. There's a lot less
That's what I
skating.
mean.
It's
Yeah.
not as hard. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah, he's probably only playing like 17, 18 minutes a
Of
game.
of actual 5-on-5, and the rest is
Right.
all power play.
Exactly. So that's usually how you do that with your top guys.
Oh yeah.
Right? You don't tax those guys like that. You don't make them go out there and play 21 minutes of ice time and then do power play and penalty kill and all the other stuff. No. You only have them out there for 17, 18 minutes a game, and then, hey, power play, get your butt out there, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, he could play the entire 2-minute power play.
That's what I mean, right?
Not
That
leave
doesn't
the
matter.
offensive zone potentially. So
Right. So, but if you figure it, if that's an extra 4 minutes, so that's he's actually getting what, like five or six power play shifts. If you average a power play shift at 30 seconds, you know what I mean? Because
he's probably just staying out there for almost the
That's what I
entire
mean.
2 minutes. So.
That's what I mean. He's out there for the entire 2 minutes. So 2 or 3 power plays in and a hit. There you go. He's made up his time.
Yeah, definitely.
So for sure, man. That's who I have too, Nathan McKinnon. This not only was this the easiest number one, but this was probably the easiest list.
This was a very easy list this week
to do.
A lot of times there's a lot, guys all with very similar stats and stuff.
It's so close. It's so hard.
Yeah, this week there was, I think, a pretty clear 3.
I agree. And we even got a goalie on the list too this week too. So it always bodes well when we get a goalie because we like putting goalies on the list.
Yes, we do.
UC Soros, number 2 from Nashville. He is one of the main reasons why they are leading the West, why they played so well against Vegas. He is 3-0-0 in the last 3 games played with a sick, and I mean sick, save percentage of .961.
Yep.
That's sick. He has a goals against average of 1.67. In the last 129 shots faced, he stopped 124.
Talk about Vezina conversation. UC Soros is having an unbelievable year.
Wow.
I mean, the step up in his play and where he's at and the way that he's playing this season is the reason the Nashville Predators are where they're at in the standings.
Exactly.
They are nowhere without UC Soros playing like this. They're a wild card team at best without UC Soros playing like this, but he has taken this team to the next level without a doubt. And
with playing like that, yeah.
I mean, he's got, and that's a boatload of shots too for only 3 games to face almost 130 shots in 3 games.
3 games? Oh my gosh.
That's a lot of shots against, and he just brick walling goal.
That's 40 some shots a game.
Yep.
Man, that's just getting what defense? That's getting peppered, man.
Soros is a very big Vezina contender this year.
I'd have to agree with you on that one. And you know what? This isn't the first time this name has been on this list this year.
No, definitely not.
I know for a fact he has been on this list. Maybe not number 2, but number 3. Mm-hmm. I know he's been on this list before.
Yes, he has.
For sure. So there you go. UC Soros from Nashville, number 2 on the list. Number 1, do it. Say it. Come on.
Brian Rust. This was easy.
Yeah,
from
right?
The Pittsburgh Penguins, 3 games played, 7 goals.
Wait, say that again.
7 goals for Brian Rust in 3 games. Also added in 4 assists for 11 points over a 3-game span, a +6 rating, 4 points on the power play, 7 points even strength, one of those goals being a game winner. And we thought Nathan McKinnon at 3 points per game was good. 3.67 points per game for Brian Rust over this 3-game span last week.
Only over this 3-game span, but that's why this was so easy. Like when you look at the points for the, when you look at the stats for all the skaters and you look down at the points and went, wow, 11 points.
Double digits in 1
3
week.
games.
1
in
week.
3 games. Yeah, right.
It's unbelievable.
And
that's why this was such an obvious number 1.
That's why I looked over and I thought, yeah, I'm going to see a name like McDavid or Matthews or something like that. And I looked over and it was Brian Rust. I was like, what? Where did this come from? But look at what Pittsburgh has done over the last 10 games. My gosh.
That's going to lead us right into our next segment.
You know, what's really funny, too, is because when they first started it, right, they were 10-9-5.
10-8-5.
I'm sorry, 10-8-5.
They were 10-8-5.
10-8-5 when they first started the 10-game streak, and it was because of guys like Rust that are having nights like this.
Yep.
That they put together this 10-game win streak. You know what I mean? 11 points in 3 games. 7 of them on even strength.
Yeah. That's 1980s level scoring right there. That's like something you would see back in the 80s and guys putting up 11 points in 3 games. Like, just doesn't happen much anymore. And Rust has been on fire.
Unless you're like Draisaitl or Connor McDavid or Austin Matthews or somebody like that.
And even those guys, we don't see double-digit points in a 1-week span very often.
No, we don't.
There haven't been many times I've looked up the stats for this segment and seen double-digit points. Like, we see 8 points in 3 games. We see 9 points. We see 7 points, and they get on the list. But we don't see double digits.
Nope,
and for Russ to have 11 is unreal.
And we don't very rarely do we see 10. Like, you don't even see 10. You just see 9 or 8 or 7. But you don't see 10.
Usually around there. And
that's what I mean. So this was easy. Yeah,
so that's a perfect segue right now into hottest teams.
I have to agree because, gosh, we're going into the hottest and the coldest teams, and we always like to do the positive side first.
Yeah.
Right, so we do the hottest teams first. And, well, gosh, man, we got 3 of the hottest teams here, and it looks like our lists are pretty close.
Yeah, the only difference is number 3.
Number 3, yeah.
And there were multiple teams that could have gone in that spot with similar records and streaks, but
I agree.
I went with the Nashville Predators at 3 just because they're atop the Western Conference, and they're 8-1-1. In their last 10 games, and they're on a 3-game winning streak. So I put them in. There were a few other teams that could have been there. Toronto, Colorado. Those were the next 2 in line. But
Toronto was the team that I put in.
Yes.
Okay. They won 3 in a row, just same. You know what I mean? So I felt that Toronto is, it was a coin flip.
Yeah.
It could have been Toronto or Nashville. It could have been either one. You know what I mean? But I felt that because I have Toronto as part of my top shelf power rankings, and I kind of better have them as part of my hottest teams.
Yeah.
Especially if they qualify, and they qualified. So they make it to the number 3 list for me, Toronto.
Yeah, they're having a great year. Number 2, looks like we're the same on this one.
Yeah, man. And how could you not put the Hurricanes here now 8-2-0 in their last 10 games, but they've won 4 in a row.
4-game win streak. Yep.
A 4-game win streak, and that's the second longest right now in the league, next to the number 1 team that we'll talk about here. But Carolina, man, they just find ways to win. It doesn't matter. They can go down 2 or 3 goals, and it doesn't matter. They still win.
Yep.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter. It's like, we're down 2 or 3 goals. Big deal.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter. So, Carolina just finds ways to win games and find ways to not lose games.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think that's a key thing there with a team where not only are you finding a way to win the game, but you're finding a way to not lose the game.
Yep.
Because you look at sometimes coaches come into games and they're just like, look, guys, just don't lose the game. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Just keep everything in front of you and just don't lose that.
Yep.
Right? Well, they're doing that plus some, because they're finding ways to not lose the game.
Yeah, and
So,
they don't beat themselves either.
See, that's the other point,
they
too. They
don't-
don't beat themselves.
They don't beat themselves. They don't do dumb plays. They don't turn the puck over a lot. They
Or
just
put themselves in the box,
yeah, exactly. So
because they're doing dumb things or they're frustrated or, whatever.
they've got the best point percentage in the league for a reason, and they certainly are very, very good at it. But
For sure.
that brings us to number 1. And again, this could not have been a more obvious number 1. I think everybody knows it's the Pittsburgh Penguins. 10-0-0 in their last 10 games, a 10-game winning streak. I mean, I don't think it gets more obvious than that.
No, that was easy. When you look over there and it says number of wins in a row and it says 10.
Yeah.
I guess you rank as the number 1, 10-0-0 in your last 10 games.
Yep.
Look, a lot of things have gone really well for Pittsburgh. Sidney Crosby is on like a 6-game point streak. They lost some guys to COVID, but they had some guys come back during that stretch. They had some injuries that they were able to get back. Crosby was able to come back during that period as well too. You know what I mean? And Tristan Jarry has just been playing really, really good goalie for during the streak. I mean, he's part of the reason why they are winning as the games that they're winning. He's just been able to stop enough pucks to keep them ahead, and they just have so much offense that it doesn't really matter. You can score 2-3 goals against, and it doesn't matter. They're just going to outscore you.
Yeah, Pittsburgh scores a ton of goals. Great offensive team, and they're getting the goaltending, at least from Tristan Jarry this year, that they need to get. Again, come playoff time.
Not so much from DeSmith.
No, DeSmith got absolutely lit up by the Blues the other night. But the Pittsburgh can outscore anybody, and I think that's what makes them so dangerous, is that even if their goalie doesn't have a great night and they give up 3 or 4 goals, they can just score 5 or 6, and they're going to win the game.
I mean, when you have a guy like Brian Rust who can put up 11 points in 3 games...
And he's not even considered like a star on the team. Like,
I mean,
Crosby and Letang and Gensel, and like they have all these bigger names than the attention Brian Rust gets.
That's what I mean.
And Rust is the one scoring 7 goals in 3 games. Like, yeah,
that's what I mean. That's why I was like, yeah. So if a guy like that is doing that kind of stuff in Pittsburgh, just wait till Malkin gets back, because from what I understand, he's skating.
Yep, and Carter should be coming back soon.
Carter is back. He played Saturday night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he played Saturday night.
So Carter's back.
So he is back. I don't know if he's played before then, but I know he played Saturday night.
He did not play Wednesday against St. Louis. I know.
No, I know he didn't play Wednesday. Right, exactly. He was on COVID.
Yes.
Yeah, he had COVID. So, but I'm pretty sure he was activated for Saturday night's game. So, well, there you go, man. Those were our 3 hottest teams.
Mm-hmm.
You have Pittsburgh, Carolina, and Nashville. I have Pittsburgh, Carolina, and Toronto. And so now we go to the other end.
Yes, the cold side, the unfortunate side.
The unfortunate side, yes, the unfortunate side. And that would be the coldest teams in the league. And, this one was pretty much as easy. It's just that I didn't have enough spaces to put the teams on here. There were more teams than I had spaces.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No,
right?
It does. And
oh man.
There's not really any long losing streaks right now.
No, not right now, but the fact that these teams have not been able to put a significant number of wins together.
Yeah, they're still losing a ton of games.
Exactly. So, all right. So, John, who do you got at number 3?
The Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah.
2-6-2.
Yeah.
In their last 10, lost 2 in a row. Just this team's crumbling. Goaltending situation is horrible. Defense is falling apart. Now they're getting no scoring.
Yeah, right.
Teams are at least limiting what McDavid and Draisaitl can do, and they have nothing else offensively outside of those two. So Edmonton's fallen out of a playoff spot. They've fallen out of a wild card spot. They're in serious danger of not even making the playoffs. Never mind losing early in the playoffs, but not even making the playoffs this year. This team needs a serious turnaround very, very quickly here, or they're going to be in big trouble.
I think they already are.
They're in big trouble. They've got to turn this around quick, or this could get ugly.
All
for
you
the
have to
Oilers.
do, all you have to do is tune in to Peyton on the radio to watch his after game.
Now they're infighting in the media now. Like
I
Dave
know.
Tippett threw Koskinen under the bus, and Koskinen fired right back at him. It was like, well, the team doesn't score any goals, so like it's a mess in Edmonton right now.
They didn't do the things that they needed to do to address the issues in the offseason.
Well, they thought they did, but they thought that Cody Ceci and Duncan Keith were going to be the savior of their back end.
But they didn't change the goaltending.
And the goaltending tandem's exactly the same, which clearly hasn't been good enough for the past 2 years. And now you're just coming back with it. That's
why I'm saying they didn't address the issues that they had in the offseason. They re-signed the same two goaltenders.
Yeah,
that to me clearly says that y'all don't have an idea of what's going on with your team.
What the real issues are.
Exactly. Yeah. You re-signed the two goaltenders that probably were the reason why you weren't able to be successful in the playoffs, and you re-signed both of them.
Yeah. Now, I mean, until they fix the net, this team's not going anywhere.
Agreed. Yep, agreed. And it doesn't matter who's in front. And it's just like you said, once you get past Draisaitl and McDavid, that's it. There's nothing else. You know what I mean? And they need to get more depth, and they need to get goaltending. And until they fix that, this is what Edmonton's going to be.
Yep, exactly.
So
right.
I didn't grace Edmonton on the list because I have a hard time seeing Peyton's vein in his neck stick out. But I went with Seattle.
Yep.
Man, I really want to like this team.
They're just not good.
Really, really want to like this team. They have a great logo. They have great uniforms, great colors, but their coach just stinks. I'm sorry. And until Hackstall gets out of there, Seattle is going to perpetually be on this list as far as I'm concerned. They don't have enough of anything to get it done.
Yeah.
And I think on paper, Seattle has a pretty decent team. Now, they were supposed to have a really good goaltender, and let's face it, goaltending. He's
been awful.
He has been horrible.
Grubauer, analytically, I think is the worst starting goalie in the league.
Is the worst starting goaltender in the league. Okay, so that's really hurt. And your defense was supposed to be vaunted is not.
Yeah, no, 100%. They're not nearly as good defensively as I thought they were going to be.
Exactly. And you don't have nothing up front. I mean, you have nothing.
Oh, and now Schwartz is hurt. Tanev's hurt. Like, they're even good pieces. The few good pieces that they did have are starting to drop, and they're hurt now. So, yeah, it's Seattle's number 2 on my list. 2-6-2 in their last 10 as well. Lost 2 in a row. See, everything you said, this team's not good, and they're probably going to be on this list quite a bit as they continue to, flounder around at the bottom of the Western Conference.
I want to like them. I really do. I really do. But number 2 on my list is Arizona. That ship just keeps on sinking deeper and deeper, and it just doesn't seem to be getting any better. And I think what's going to end up happening here is you're going to see some of the big pieces leave.
I expect
Kessel. They'll probably move Kessel.
I expect them to make some serious moves selling at the deadline.
Of course.
Yeah.
They're going to have to because they don't really – they need draft picks.
They loaded up on draft picks this offseason. I think they're going to continue that mentality and just keep doing it.
Because they need to because they lost draft picks with the whole – debacle that happened
with John Chayka and
that's what I mean.
Illegally testing players, and they lost picks. So Arizona's in a full-on rebuild. I don't think there's any secret about that, and they're going to be in contention for Shane Wright in that number 1 overall pick.
Can I ask you a strange question? We've seen this happen in the NFL twice. One time was John Elway. And John Elway came out and said, I am not going to be drafted by such and such a team. If I am drafted by such and such a team, I will go play baseball.
Yep.
And guess what? Such and such a team drafted him, and John Elway said, well, I'm going to go play baseball.
Yep.
Okay. Same thing happened with Eli Manning.
Mm-hmm.
Eli Manning said, if you draft me, I'm not going to play.
Yeah. And then
They drafted him and then turned
traded.
around and traded him right away.
Yeah. The Phillip Rivers swap.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So have we ever seen a first round draft pick of
Eric
the
Lindros?
NHL?
Eric Lindros was the biggest one. Refused to play for Quebec.
The Nordiques.
Yeah,
right.
Refused to play for Quebec and ended up getting traded to Philly, and that was a massive deal at the time.
Exactly, because that involved Peter Forsberg.
Peter Forsberg went to Quebec, which then became the Colorado Avalanche.
$1.6 million.
Yeah, and then Quebec became the Colorado Avalanche and won the Stanley Cup in 1996 and again in 2001.
So, I mean, but has it happened since?
Recently?
No.
No. I don't.
Right.
Not off the top of my head. Certainly not in the last decade. Nobody's been like, I refuse to play for this team.
Okay, so if you were the number one draft pick and your prospect was to go play for Arizona, I don't know. Would you still? I mean,
yeah, I don't think I would try and pull a move like that because honestly, if we look at who's in the running here for this first overall pick, I mean, there's a lot of teams that are not in good situations.
I know.
You're going to like Montreal, you're going to Arizona, maybe Ottawa, Seattle. Like these are the teams.
Okay, but Montreal, as we'll just say it, Montreal is our coldest team. Both of us.
I would not want to go to Montreal.
Yeah, I would not want to go to Montreal, and I would not want to go to Arizona.
Yeah, see, Arizona, you don't know if they're going to still be in Arizona.
That's why I would not want to go to Arizona, because there's so much uncertainty there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I wouldn't want to go to Montreal because that's just that media and that.
They're on the wrong side of the rebuild, though. Like they're just going into it. I don't. Yeah. I want a team that can be out of it on a quicker
in a year
side.
Or two. Yeah,
and honestly, I think Arizona, if they draft well, they've got so many picks over the next two drafts that they could be headed in like the New Jersey direction sooner rather than later. But they have a ton of ownership issues, and you have the problem as to are they even going to be in Arizona?
So that's why I asked you that question.
Yeah.
If Arizona is gonna be the team that gets the number one draft pick, and as the kid coming out, would you want to go to Arizona? My vote would be no.
If I'm Shane Wright,
I'm gonna stay back in juniors one more year.
Yeah. If I'm Shane Wright, I want either Ottawa or Seattle to win the draft lottery.
Yeah.
I would want one of those two teams to win the lottery because I think Ottawa, like, obviously so much young talent there.
Yes.
Starting to show signs of getting significantly improved. Like, I think Ottawa next year is probably going to be New Jersey this year.
Yeah, I agree.
And then 2 years they could potentially be a playoff team.
Yeah.
So Ottawa would not be a bad place to go, and you get a lot of other young players around your age that you can bond with and be a part of that group. And Seattle would be another place that I would not like going because, again, there's some good pieces there. They got Matty Beniers in last year's draft. If you could follow up Matty Beniers last year with Shane Wright this year, holy cow. Talk about that could be a Crosby Malkin level 1-2 punch down the middle.
I agree, but just not the right coach. I just don't. Man.
Well, I don't think Hackstall is going to be there that long.
Okay.
Like, I don't think 5 years from now, Dave Hackstall is not going to be the Seattle Kraken head coach.
I don't think so either.
I think next year might be it for him. I don't think they'll can him after one season, but I think next year will probably be it.
Like maybe halfway through the year, depending on how things go.
Yeah. Anyway, we've talked about we've talked about everybody except number one. Well, we did touch on them, and that's the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah.
1 win in their last 10 games. Lost 2 straight. I haven't played in a while because they've been, all those Canadian games got postponed because of the no attendance. But still, I mean, I'm not even going to harp on Montreal. We know what a disaster of a year it's been for them, and it just continues.
Yeah, exactly. And they're probably, it's either going to be between Montreal, Seattle, Ottawa, and Arizona.
Arizona. Those are your 4 like really bad teams.
Maybe Buffalo might sneak into that list.
Yeah, if they keep losing, Buffalo could drop down there because Buffalo, I think, is at 26 points right now. Ottawa's at 20.
And I'll tell you what, if Philadelphia goes on another 10-game bender, they'll be on the list too.
Yeah. Well, at least they have a little bit of a cushion. They've got 33 points. So, they're not quite down with, Ottawa and Montreal.
I know,
yet.
but
Buffalo could fall there rather easily because they're
the Islanders.
Islanders are at 26 points. That they've only played 28 games. I think the Islanders are going to even out to be more of like a 500 team.
I think so too. Yeah,
they'll be like a 500 team.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go, man. Those were our hottest and coldest teams.
Yes.
And so now we're going to move into our
game of the week.
And this is a game that we feel that y'all should be watching. Should be tuning into, should be making your popcorn for, should be watching John do the live stream, should be, you should be clicking into this for sure.
Definitely.
Okay. So, John, who do you got and are you going to be doing this game?
Yes. And Tuesday night, Colorado, Nashville.
Yeah,
big
buddy.
Divisional battle in the Central. Both teams very hot right now, playing spectacular. There's only 4 points separating them in the standings. Nashville's in first place. Colorado right now is catching quickly, and Colorado has an advantage with games in hand.
Yep.
Huge rivalry already between these teams because they're in the same division, and they've been good the past few years, so a lot of Avalanche Predators matchups have that rivalry feel to it. This is just a phenomenal game. To me, stood out as the best game of this coming week for me. And I will be covering this game Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, and I cannot wait for this one. Probably of all the games that I'm doing this week, I think this is the one that I'm most excited for.
Can't disagree with that. Because this is that must-watch TV that we're talking about here, folks. Because watching how Nashville came out and handled Vegas, that was very eye-opening in the first period in that game that they played last week, right? Watching Vegas just crumbled in on themselves and watching Nashville just skate all around and now Vegas did come back.
Yeah.
And, but Nashville still hung on, but Soros was just the reason why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's why I think these games are good because Colorado hasn't been the elite team that it was last year. Okay. They've had guys miss time and they're now starting to get guys back and you're starting to see guys starting to play well again and starting to get hot again. And Colorado's heating up. And this is going to be one of those games. I agree. This should be must-watch TV right here, Colorado versus Nashville on the 11th.
Absolutely.
Ooh, doggies. Now, unfortunately, owing to the nature of how this recording went.
Yeah.
The game that I picked.
Already happened.
Yes.
Yes.
So, do you want me to get into it, or do you want me to pick another one?
Oh, you can go with it if you want to. It was a great game.
Oh, my gosh. It was amazing. I mean, this was, like I said, I've been trying to watch more of these Florida games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And trying to watch more of them. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you what. Now, I picked the Florida-Carolina game.
Yep.
Okay, because this was supposed to happen on Saturday.
Saturday the 8th.
It did, right? And this game was as advertised.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It was back and forth. It was amazing. Watching the top teams play against each other, watching the amazing saves, watching the skill on offense on both sides. Mm-hmm. Okay. Just great plays, great special teams, and then tying it up at the end, going into overtime, and then getting the final shot in there to win the game for the Panthers was awesome. Duclair for the overtime, which was his second of the game. I mean, it was just a great game all the way around. And I don't know who I would have picked for this game, but the Panthers were successful, but both teams get a point.
Yep.
Because it went to overtime.
Yep.
So this goes back to what we were talking about with these teams, where they find ways to not lose the game. They find a way to make it to overtime to get that point.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's what Carolina did. They fell a little bit short. It was a bit of a turnover there at the end, and Panthers were able to score and get the winner. But, man, this game was tight checking, lots of great offense, lots of great defense, great goaltending. I mean, what an awesome game. This was definitely up there with that must-watch TV, and I'm looking forward to these matchups later on.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Foreshadowing.
Yes. All right, so some awesome games there to watch, absolutely, and now that brings us to our final segment, Prospect Watch, where we talk about some of the young up-and-coming prospects in the NHL who may not be dominating the ice yet, but could be very well in the near future.
Yep.
Steele, who is your Prospect Watch for this week?
Oh, yeah. I picked a gentleman who played for the Germany World Junior team one game. They only got to play one game this year for the World Juniors, and then they shut it all down. For the World Juniors. But I'm talking about Jake Sanderson. And I'll tell you what, a 19-year-old left-hand shot defenseman who right now is playing for, wait for it, University of North Dakota.
Yes.
Oh, man, another hockey hotbed school.
Yep.
And as a defenseman, listen to this, 15 games played, 6 goals, 13 assists. For 19 points, he's a +7.
Yep.
For a 19-year-old defenseman, he's 6'2", 185 pounds, and he was drafted, I believe, 5th overall by Ottawa.
5th overall by Ottawa back in 2020.
Yep. In the 2020 draft, 5th overall, drafted by the Ottawa Senators. And like we talked about before, Ottawa's got quite a plethora of young talent coming up.
Yeah, that's why if I'm Shane Wright, I would not be upset if Ottawa got the number 1 overall pick.
Right.
There's so many of these guys with the Senators that have star potential that are still just 19, 20, 21 years old and just coming up.
And playing very, very well. And they're playing for, like, University of Michigan is a great school to play for, right? University of Boston, great school to play for. University of North Dakota, great school. These are all, like, top-tier schools that teach players that NHL-type game.
Yep.
Okay? That's why we call these top-tier schools.
Yep. Because
these teams mimic what the NHL's doing.
Yeah, they get you ready. They get you ready for NHL action, and these top colleges are sending a lot of really good players to the NHL.
Exactly. Speaking of top players and colleges, who's your prospect watch this week, John?
Mine is a guy that just made his NHL debut, and that is Marco Rossi from the Minnesota Wild.
There you go.
He's 20 years old, center, on the smaller side, 5'9", 183 pounds, but extremely good skater, extremely good passer of the puck. He was drafted in the first round, 9th overall back in 2020, 4 picks after Jake Sanderson. And the Wild got him in the top 10. And unfortunately, he missed most of 2021 because he got COVID. He got very sick. He had a heart condition because of it.
Oh, wow.
Missed the entire year, had to go back to Europe and went to Austria. Wow. Came back and has played 21 games in the AHL this season and has 7 goals, 16 assists for 23 points, a +4 rating. And he played his first NHL game this past week against the Boston Bruins. Didn't pick up a point in that game, but has now touched NHL ice and was over a point per game in the AHL so far this season.
Nice.
So massive return for Marco Rossi, obviously showing why he was a top 10 pick.
Wow.
And he had 120 points his last year in junior in 56 games.
Wow. What was his junior club?
He played in the OHL.
Ottawa 106 points in the O. 106 points in the O is not too shabby.
No, and
that's
incredible
not too
playmaker.
shabby.
Incredible playmaker. He put up let's see. His last year with Ottawa in the OHL, he put up 81 assists
Holy
in
cow.
56 games. So this guy can pass the puck, and he is going to be a star player for the Minnesota Wild.
For sure, man. That's exciting, man. I can't wait to see some of these young guys start to trickle in a little bit more as we go down through the year. You know, we start to see guys come in more and more, you know, as we go. So, man, that's awesome, dude. I like seeing that kind of, and especially dealing with the adversity and going through the whole COVID thing and having to, you know, miss an entire year. That's pretty hardcore to miss a year. And then to come in and play some AHL games and then to come in and play in the first NHL game, man, that's congratulations to Marco Rossi, man. Way to go.
Yes. So that's going to bring us now to the end of Prospect Watch and the end of episode 50 here. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Steele, as always, it was a pleasure.
Always.
And great to do a show with you, and can't wait till next week and we can do it all again.
All again. Just remember, folks, watch some great hockey. Tune into Off the Wall Hockey and get John and check us out on Fridays. We're live and we do the entire NHL. It's a hockey show for hockey fans. Check John out on the web, or you can check him out on Twitter. You can check me out on the web at steelflyers.com, or you can check me out on Twitter at steelflyers52.
Yeah, so this is the Off the Wall Hockey Show, a hockey show for hockey fans, part of the Steel Flyers All Sports Network. Be sure to check out all the work from everybody at Steel Flyers at www.steelflyers.com. Also want to give a big thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring the show. Again, use the promo code OTWH at checkout, and you can get 20% off your order plus free shipping at manscaped.com. Make sure you head over there, get all your male grooming needs met, all the equipment that you need, and a lot of great products there over at Manscaped. So be sure to check them out, and be sure to use the promo code. It really does help out a lot. That brings us now to the end of the show here, episode 50. We'll be back next week with episode 51. We'll have a whole new week of NHL action to talk about, and can't wait for that. But until then, have a great week, everybody. Thank you again, and talk to you guys soon.